The storm came without warning. Snow crushed the trees flat against the ridge, swallowing sound, swallowing light. Jacob Mills hadn't seen another soul since the night his wife, Anna, vanished into that storm. 6 nights of silence, 6 nights of staring into the flames, trying to convince himself it wasn't his fault. He told the sheriff what he remembered: the argument, the knock at the door, the thing he saw on the edge of the property. A shape that moved on all 4s, but too tall to be a wolf, too fast to be human. Anna thought it was a coyote. She grabbed the lantern. Jacob begged her not to go. She didn't listen. By morning, they found her scarf snagged on a branch, torn and soaked through with blood. No body, no prints, just snow. And Jacob's story. Now the house stood still as a photograph, quiet, except for the fire crackling in the hearth and the faint creak of the boards beneath Jacob's pacing feet. On the 7th night, as the wind screamed outside, Jacob heard it, 3 dull knocks on the door, then a voice, faint, trembling, familiar. "Jacob, open the door. It's me." He froze. Every hair on his body stood on end. The voice sounded exactly like her, but she was gone. He had seen the blood, the shredded cloth. He whispered, "Anna." The wind answered. The knocking stopped. He told himself he'd dreamed it. Isolation does that. It warps the edges of sound, turns guilt into echoes. He poured another drink and stared at the flames until dawn. By morning, the world looked clean again. The storm had wiped away everything. Everything except the new footprints leading to his porch. At first, they looked human, barefoot. Then, halfway across the yard, they changed. The toes lengthened, the arches deepened, the stride widened. They became paw prints. Jacob's breath fogged in the cold. He snapped a picture with his phone, but when he looked at the screen, there was nothing there, just snow. He told himself he'd pressed the wrong button. The lens had fogged. The mind plays tricks when it wants to forget. He deleted the photo. He told himself he was fine. That night, the scratching began. It came from beneath the floorboards, faint at first, then steady, deliberate. Jacob grabbed the lantern, crouched by the hearth, and listened. The sound crawled from one end of the cabin to the other, claws dragging on the joists. He whispered, "Rats! It's just rats!" But then came the voice again, closer this time, as if pressed against the boards right below him. "It's cold down here, Jacob. Please." He stumbled back, heart hammering. The lantern slipped from his hand and went out. In the dark, he heard something breathing under the floor. Slow, wet, human. He didn't sleep. He stood in the chair by the window, rifle across his lap, staring at the silver-framed wedding photo on the table. Her smile looked wrong tonight. He leaned closer and froze. In the glass reflection, her eyes glowed faintly yellow. He turned the picture face down, muttering, "You're not here. You're gone." Outside, snow drifted against the windows. Somewhere beyond the trees, something howled. A long, broken sound that ended almost like a sob. On the 9th morning, Sheriff Keller stopped by. He looked worn, older than the last time Jacob saw him. "We found what's left of the generator by the creek," Keller said. "And some bones. Not hers. Animal, maybe. But," he hesitated, "there were human teeth marks." Jacob stared, lips trembling. "You think I did it?" "I think you need to rest," the sheriff said softly. Jacob watched him leave through the frost-clouded glass. The tracks Keller made filled quickly with falling snow, erased like they'd never existed. That night, just after midnight, Jacob heard her again. "Jacob." I'm so cold." The voice came from the front door this time. When he looked, he saw her through the window. Hair matted with snow, skin pale as the moonlight, eyes full of pain. "Anna?" he whispered. She nodded slowly, lips trembling. "Please, I can't feel my hands." Every logical thought in Jacob's mind screamed no. He'd seen her grave scarf. He'd seen the blood. He told himself, if it's really her, I can't just leave her out there. His hand shook as he unlocked the door. The door swung open, wind exploding into the room, scattering ashes from the hearth. Anna stood in the threshold, shivering violently. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Her breath came in ragged bursts. "Jacob," she rasped, stepping forward. "I tried to find my way back." He reached for her, and that's when her spine arched backward with a crack like splitting wood. Her mouth opened, jaw stretching, teeth tearing through her gums, bones shifted under her skin, nails blackened, curling into claws, her scream warped into a snarl. Jacob stumbled back, firing the rifle. The shot deafened the room, blew plaster from the wall, but the creature kept coming. "Anna!" he cried, even as it pounced. "Anna, please!" The thing that had been his wife tore into him, blood spraying across the table, the picture frame, the floorboards. Outside, the snow fell soundlessly. Inside, the fire guttered out. When Sheriff Keller returned the next morning, the cabin door was wide open. The interior was a wreck. Chairs overturned, blood spattered across the fireplace, rifles snapped in half. 2 sets of tracks led from the doorway into the snow. At first they were human, large and small, side by side. Then, halfway down the path, they changed. The prints deepened, widened, claws dragging through the powder. He followed them to the tree line and stopped. The tracks ended abruptly, as if both figures had vanished into thin air. The sheriff stood in the silence, snow brushing his coat, and looked back toward the house. The door creaked in the wind. Inside, the silver picture frame lay shattered on the floor. The photo was gone. Only a thin trail of blood ran from where it had been, leading to the open door. Outside, the forest whispered with the sound of breathing. Officer Daniel Cross hated night patrols. They were too quiet, too still, and too full of memory. He'd been back on duty for 6 months since the incident in Ashfield, the one nobody at the precinct mentioned anymore. The wild animal attack that had left 3 hikers torn apart under the full moon. He'd been the only survivor. The department called it trauma, and the shrink called it post-traumatic stress. Daniel called it the thing that followed him home. It started with the smell, not rot, not blood. Something metallic, like a coin rubbed between wet fingers. It would drift in through the patrol car vents, copper and cold, whenever the moon rose. It clung to him afterward, too, on his uniform, his skin, his tongue. He'd scrub until his nose bled, but the scent stayed. The scent of silver. His new partner, Rogers, was all jokes and cheap coffee. "Still jumpy, huh?" he said one night, tapping the dash as the patrol car idled by the lake. Daniel forced a smile. "Just don't like quiet." "Man," Rogers chuckled, "I heard about that thing upstate." "You think it was really a wolf?" Daniel's grip tightened on the wheel. "They said it was." When Rogers reached for the radio, his hand brushed Daniel's sleeve, and Daniel flinched. A flash of memory struck. Claws, bone, screaming, moonlight turning blood silver. He stared out the window until his pulse slowed. It was just a memory. Just trauma. That's what they said. 3 nights later, they answered a call about livestock killings on the outskirts. Sheep gutted, fences splintered. Daniel smelled it the moment they stepped out of the cruiser, the metallic tang, sharp as static. He crouched by a carcass, his flashlight trembling. The flesh was shredded but precise, the marks too clean. "Wolves don't do this," Rogers muttered. "Yeah," Daniel whispered, "I know." Then he saw something glint in the snow, a bent bullet casing lodged in frozen dirt. He picked it up and felt it burn his skin. Silver. He dropped it instantly, hand smoking faintly where it had touched his palm. Rogers didn't see. The full moon rose heavy over the highway. Daniel drove in silence, one hand trembling on the wheel. He felt it again, that crawling warmth beneath his skin, like static under flesh. Rogers talked on and on about his wife, his kids, his weekend plans. The words blurred into noise. Every heartbeat came with a sound. Thud, thud, thud. And under that, something whispering in his own head. Run, hunt, feed. He blinked hard, gripping his chest. "I'm fine," he muttered. Rogers frowned. "You okay, man?" "Yeah, just low blood sugar." He smiled, but his teeth hurt when he did. Dispatch crackled. "Unit 4, we've got a 1056 and possible animal attack, Mill District. Respond." They rolled toward the old paper mill. Rogers muttered about the smell as they pulled up. That metallic tang again. Daniel could barely breathe. It was everywhere. Inside the mill, silence, torn crates, a trail of blood across the floor. Daniel's flashlight shook. He followed the sound, something breathing heavy behind a stack of pallets. When he swung the light, he saw fur. Black fur, matted with blood. A snarl, eyes like coins burning in the dark. "Jesus!" Rogers shouted, raising his gun. But Daniel was already lowering his. He could hear the creature's heart, could feel it through his teeth. It was terrified, hungry, alive. He didn't know how, but he knew what it felt. "Daniel!" Rogers screamed. The shot rang out. Back at the station, Rogers couldn't stop shaking. "It wasn't a wolf," he said over and over. "It stood up. It stood up on 2 legs. The sergeant told him to take a week off." Daniel said nothing. In the locker room, Daniel peeled off his gloves. The skin of his palm, where the silver casing had burned him, was already healed. Smooth. Too smooth. He looked up into the mirror. His eyes glinted faintly gold in the fluorescent light. He blinked, and it was gone. Just tired eyes staring back. He whispered, "It's stress. Just stress." But even as he said it, the smell returned, faint and sharp, curling through his nostrils, the scent of silver. A week later, he brought home a therapy dog, a retired K9, black German shepherd named Scout. At first, Scout seemed calm, loyal, always near Daniel's feet. But the first night under a full moon, Scout whined and retreated to the corner. Then he growled, low, warning, teeth bared. Daniel whispered, "It's me." "What's wrong?" The dog's eyes fixed on him. Then Scout began to howl. Daniel doubled over, clutching his chest. The world tilted sideways, heat rising in waves from his skin, his gums bleeding, his pulse thundering in his ears. And beneath it all, that same metallic scent, filling his mouth like a taste. He staggered into the bathroom, locking the door behind him. The mirror blurred, then sharpened again, and he saw movement under his skin, like something crawling up his spine. His jaw cracked, nails split, hair burst through his forearms. He tried to scream, but his throat only growled. Outside, Scout barked and barked until he fell silent. Daniel stared into his reflection, his own face dissolving into something primal, eyes burning gold. Somewhere in that echoing space, a voice whispered in his head, You never survived Ashfield. The next morning, the patrol car sat idling by the lake. The driver's seat was empty. Blood streaked the inside of the windshield, smeared in claw marks. Rogers arrived at dawn, following the tire tracks down to the shore. He found a badge half buried in mud, teeth marks through the metal, and there on the hood, written in blood, were the words, "No more Daniel." They said Officer Cross went missing. Some claimed he ran off. Guilt, trauma, delusion. Others swore they saw something in the woods that night, something that howled when silver bullets were fired. The department covered it up. The file still reads, "Case closed, line of duty." But sometimes, when the wind shifts across the ridge, the patrolmen on night shift swear they can smell something strange, cold, sharp, metallic, drifting through the vents. The scent of silver.